Recording live from the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode number 61, Danger Over Dallas, in which I recount my terrifying tale on Southwest Airlines. Of course, we're also going to get into some Las Vegas news and tell you all about the drink of the day, but we can't get to any of that amazing, wonderful top shelf content until we introduce the founder of the feast, the founder of Dine, Drink Vegas and Dine, Drink Travel himself. Yes, I am speaking of the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the king of comps, the leader in the luxury lounge, the Alabama slammer, the man who will soon be waiting on that limousine to carry him away to his next Las Vegas luxury destination. I mean, Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you, sir?
I shanked 4 different putts from within inside 2 feet today. You can shut up. How are you?
Oh, well. Hey, there's booze coming by UPS for you tomorrow. Or Thursday.
That's quite encouraging. I think the reason I shanked my putts earlier today was that the best beer available on offer was Coors Light. Shout out to my brother-in-law, Mark. And I was thus pretty sober, and that caused me to keep missing.
A, I really miss Mark. B, you can guzzle down some Coors Lights, and C, I'm going to say that there was probably a really cute cart girl who distracted you.
If only there was.
So let's dive into the drink of the day since you were dangerously sober for golf. Today, I figure since this is election season and America turns 250 years old next year, and because, well, not the country, but the Constitution. Well, the country. Sorry, I'm bad at math.
Since the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, correct. 250 years for the country, not 250 years for the Constitution. I should know that, but I've been drinking. Okay, so today's drink goes back to revolutionary times. It's also a perfect fall sipper. This one's called the Stone Fence. The recipe here is really simple. A serving of apple cider, in modern terms, we would say 12 ounces. Back in those days, probably a pint. Whether that was a 16-ounce pint or the 20-ounce imperial pint, who's to say? And then some measure of rum, a serving of rum. So we said 1 to 2 ounces. Could be more, could be less. You do you. All of that into a pint glass or a Revolutionary era pewter mug, or in my case, a dual wall insulated Pilsner metal thing from a brewery that no longer exists in my hometown. Bill, why don't you talk to us about your rum and your hard cider choice and how you like this drink?
So for my hard cider, I used Angry Orchard Crisp Apple for the very good scientific reason that I had some. And then I poured in a 12-ounce can of it. Then for my rum, I used 4-year-old Florida Cognac, which is an excellent rum. It's just not a high-end rum because if I'm mixing it with 12 ounces of a sweet cider, there's no reason to use a high-end rum, right? I mean, can we agree on that point? This isn't where you use the 25-year-old rum.
No, this is not a job for your aged sipping and cigar rum. Totally agree.
Yeah, okay. Fair. And my baseline summary is it's really good. I like it very much. But with 1.5 ounces of rum to 12 ounces of the cider, I can't taste the rum. Like if I was, instead of being 1 years old, if I was, let's say, 20 odd, you know what, actually, that would be unkind. If you wanted to get somebody drunk, this is what you would do, because nobody will ever notice the extra rum in there. But I'm guessing, John, because you and I have talked before, I'm guessing that you use more rum than that.
I did, and specifically I used Lemon Heart 151 proof rum. Now, if you see the image I'm going to be posting on X tonight that we're recording, but before the podcast drops, you will see a different rum. That is actually the drink I made my wife, but there wasn't enough of that rum left, so I grabbed the Lemon Heart. Lemon Heart 151 has really heavy molasses notes, a lot of Jamaican funk, and it's 151 proof. So unlike you, I can absolutely taste the rum. And while I agree with you, this is not a job for your fine aged rums. I think there's a lot of room here to play. By the way, I use the same apple cider as you only because all these other weird beverages have crept in. Like all these, I saw hard Mountain Dew at the store. Like all these weird
Oh, good
hard
Lord.
sodas. Yeah. Hard Jarritos, I guess, because we're close to Mexico. And I do like Jarritos, so fine. But all these hard seltzers, hard colas, and whatever. The only cider left on the shelf was the Angry Orchard, which, if listeners don't know, is a subsidiary of Sam Adams. So for the theme is fine, right? Okay. I will say I wish I could have come across some Austin East ciders or a little nicer cider. I do think this is a place where you can think about your rum selection based on whether or not you want to taste the rum and what you want to taste. If you really want it to be apple cider forward, what Bill did with just a silver rum or a very lightly aged rum, Don Q, even like Bacardi would be fine. The Florida Cognac 4, Plantation 3-star, Plantaray 3-star, now they've rebranded. All of those would be great. If you want to go with a flavored rum, vanilla rum, coconut rum. I don't know about coconut and apple, but maybe you could do that. This is a case where I think spiced rums would be an option. But if you got them, I say the overproofed rums, especially with a little Jamaican funk, that really adds something to the apple and cut through. And I love apple and molasses. So having that molasses note in here really does it for me. Bill,
So the
would you
problem,
drink this
though,
again? And if so, would you change your rum?
I wouldn't change the rum. I would drink it again. If I was going to drink it again, on the one hand, I'm inclined to think that I would put more rum in there. But on the other hand, this drink goes down like a fat kid on a seesaw.
Indeed.
John, if you've got effectively 3 drinks in your glass, I mean, at what point is there too much alcohol in one drink to like maintain a pleasant evening?
So I've got 3 ounces of 151 proof rum in.
Oh, so you've got 4
with a
drinks in
12
there.
ounce cider. So I think listeners will make their own determination by the time we get to the end of this episode because, I will be Johnny Appleseed by the time we get to this. So with no further
So
ado, go ahead.
I was going to say you are early in your drink then. Let's test right now how drunk you are. Jerry Jones is the best owner in professional football, and he makes excellent personnel decisions, particularly with his defense. Go.
We have never had to put an adult content warning on this podcast, but if you say that again, we will. I am holding back a tirade of 4-letter words, and if I'd had any more to drink, all of the 4-letter words, Bill, all of the.
I will try it again later in the podcast when you finish the drink. But I believe we're going.
That is a reasonable test. Although you're in charge of the audio editing for the raw audio, you're going to have to figure out how to bleep me. That's all I know. The funnier you make the bleep noise, the better. But let's go for it.
Right. I believe you were going to start talking, though, John, about our main story, which is 100% a John story, where listeners, there's something John wants to test me about in terms of what my reaction is going to be. So, John, take it away.
So, however long ago it was on some previous episode of the podcast, because I'm too lazy to look it up, we talked about the changes coming to Southwest Airlines, whereby the cattle call and open seating is going away and there are assigned seats. And at the time, I lamented vehemently that they're taking away what makes Southwest charming. I have changed my mind, and here's what happened. I had to go on a business trip, and I had a flight back from the great city of Dallas to our my fair, humble abode in the far desert lands of far west Texas, that place which Bill once called home. Very short flight, roughly an hour of flight time, sometimes less if Southwest wants to let the hammer down. Not a long flight at all. And it was a Saturday evening. And nobody's in a hurry to get back to where I live. So the plane was only 2/3 full, right? Which means, theoretically, nobody had to sit in the middle seat. There were enough window and aisle seats to accommodate everybody. Now, as it turned out, I stumbled into an upgrade. I was A1. I got on the plane. I picked my perfect seat. I had 2 bags, so I didn't want the very front row because I don't like putting 2 in the overhead bin. I feel like that hogs space. I had 1 in the overhead bin, 1 under my seat. I'm in the second row on the aisle, just where I like to be when I travel with 2 bags. Everything's going fine. There's a lady at the window seat. She seems pleasant and not at all interested in talking. Great. Perfect row mate. Nobody has to go in the middle. As boarding went on, there was a lady who did not choose to upgrade and found herself amongst the last people to get on the plane. I will not fat shame anyone. I used to weigh close to 400 pounds. I don't know how big I got. When I got over 350, I quit getting on scales. But once upon a time, and I gained a lot of weight after that, I was somewhere between 385 and 400 at one point in my life. I am not fat shaming anybody. If you, dear listener, are a big person, God bless you. We love you. If you are healthy, then by all means, be whatever size you want to be. No judgment from me. But this woman was, shall we say, of substance. And as she made her way onto the plane, she looks at me and says, I always sit by the window, but the only window seat is too far back. Now I look back and it's only 4 more rows. But she's winded and can't get to aisle 6. She says, can I please sit in the middle seat? I'm a Southern gentleman. Yes, ma'am, of course. I took off my seatbelt, got up. She asked for not 1, but 2 seatbelt extenders. That's okay. It's a short flight. We can make it work. I squeezed both of my butt cheeks together to clear as much room on the seat as possible. She has to put up the armrest on both sides of her. So neither I nor the window lady have any personal space because she is spilling over. But again, short flight, not a problem, right? Not a problem. We get airborne, and within a few minutes, we hit a pocket of turbulence. Now, it's a brief amount of turbulence, but this triggered a reaction in this lady. And some gas was involved. Now, Bill, we're all adults. An airplane is an enclosed space, and all of us can politely ignore a little incidental poot from somebody else on the plane. We heard it, we smelt it, we all act like we didn't. We're all adults. It's gonna happen. It's an enclosed space, not a big deal. Nay, listeners, the seat began to rumble for the following 10 minutes. It was so warm, I began to worry that it was more than a gas situation and that there would be spillage.
That there were sharks going on?
Yes. Voluminous at that. I look over at the window lady, and she has eyes pleading for me to do something and a handkerchief over her face. And I simply give her a look that says, I don't know what you want me to do. We're in this together now. This continues for, look, I think we were 45, 50 minutes of airtime total. It's 2/3 of the flight. I mean it's constant. And here's the kicker. When they brought around snacks, she took her bag of pretzels and mine. She doubled up on snacks while expelling some non-sellable West Texas natural gas. And as we landed, I reflected back on the moment that she said, I always take a window seat, knowing that I always take an aisle seat. And knowing that if there were the opportunity to choose seats, there is no universe where this is happening directly next to me, because she would not have been in my middle row. So I'm reluctant to admit it, but Southwest, letting us pick our flights like every other airline, you're right. Please forgive me. That's my sad tale of woe.
the Vegas hook here is that Southwest has got to be the largest airline into Las
Oh,
Vegas.
easily.
And when I lived in your town, I was sorely tempted to take Southwest because it was a nonstop,
Oh,
and that
yes.
was better than the connection on American Airlines, about
You
whom I
did
write
take it at
angry
least
poetry.
twice, right? At least twice you took it.
I did, but that was only because I had a coupon for some free wild turkey and a credit card to buy more. Um, but I never did like it. The great fortune of my current town in Alabama is it's typically more convenient to not take them to Vegas. So, John, how much more are you willing to spend to fly in the luxury lounge where, in domestic first class, you've got four seats where Southwest will typically place nine. And what that means is that your odds are less than half of running into that seatmate because there are fewer seatmates.
So it's not a matter of willing, it's a matter in my tax bracket of able. So, for instance, in January, I'm going to fly out to visit you and go drink the good beverages you have on offer in your town. Upgrading from economy to first for those particular flights, because nobody wants to go from my town to your town, apparently, was only $12. And for an extra 12 bucks, yes, I will pay for first class. But I have seen it where from my town to Vegas, which is a 2 hour flight, that Southwest will generally be for the direct flight under $200 a seat. American Airlines economy will be right at $200 a seat. I've seen first class over 1,000. So willing, yes, but the cost matters, right? So when
Of
I
course
can
it
afford
does.
it, of course. And for the record, I do always price out other airlines when I book travel. I tend to go with Southwest because value, because I do maintain Southwest is better than the economy section of American or other airlines.
So
If you got to fly cheap, I like Southwest.
the reason that I always fly American into Las Vegas, other than convenience, is twofold. One, because of their credit card architecture, I've got the top level elite status with American, which does provide me some benefits that I care about. The other thing is that with one child in school in Ireland and soon to be two, American is, from either my town or yours, functionally the only good way to get there. My job sometimes requires me to fly them. So since I'm gonna have to fly them sometimes, and I've got elite status with them, I tend to book it when I can. I'm going to say, though, that one of the things which would change my willingness to fly Southwest into Las Vegas is going to be when that Chase Sapphire Reserve Lounge opens. Actually, hasn't that already opened now?
I believe so, and I will test that theory when I go in December.
Please do, because as much as I care about the flight, I care about the airport experience before the flight. But yeah, I feel bad for you, brother. That should not have happened to anybody on their flight. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but there comes some point where, and I used to be a much larger person too. There comes some point where if you can't close the armrest around you, then you're borrowing part of my seat, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah,
Right? Like, I'm
yeah,
entitled to my seat.
yeah. I do believe she violated the 2 seat rule.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's not a socially graceful way to handle that. But that's one of the advantages of flying first class is that essentially never happens there. You've got more space, which is of course not an option. So one last thing about Southwest before we move on, John. So Southwest elected to, when they start going to assigned seating, they elected to offer some extra legroom seats. Why do you think they didn't offer some extra elbow room seats? Why didn't they offer some seats that were two abreast instead of three abreast on each side of the aisle?
I think because that would require a major remodel of their aircraft, and perhaps at some point in the future that will be an option. Now that they've opened Pandora's box, I think eventually you get that from Southwest, right? I do think eventually there's a Southwest first class. But as presently configured, those airplanes, you can't do that without a remodel.
Right. All right. Well, John, I am sorry that that happened to you, particularly as this flight was only going to your hometown instead of to Las Vegas.
Indeed.
Should we move on and start talking about the latest Las Vegas news?
Well, before we start on news stories, folks, we would like to ask for your help. We enjoy making this podcast for you, and we would like a larger audience. Now, we don't make any money doing this podcast, and we probably would do it anyway just to talk to each other. However, we still want a bigger audience. So please, on whatever platform you listen to our podcast, please click whatever version of like they have or leave a rating if that's how that platform rolls. And leave us a comment on platforms where that's a thing, especially on YouTube. Maybe even drop a link on whatever social media platform you use. If you're an Xer, if you're an Instagrammer, if you're a Facebooker, whatever you are, just tell the world about us. We'd like to grow a little bit of an audience. It will help us grow, and we would truly and greatly appreciate it more than I appreciated fresh air when they opened the door to that aircraft. Hey, Bill, you're on mute. It's hilarious because your lips are moving.
That's really funny because I thought I hadn't had enough rum here, and yet clearly I had. I'm glad I only poured myself a single of rum. So, Scott at Vital Vegas, and by the way, listeners, I do control the editing of the audio, and I'm leaving this in on purpose because when we do dumb things, by rule between John and I, we leave those dumb things in. And this is my turn to have done something stupid. But back to
Yes.
news. Scott at Vital Vegas reported that the Stevens brothers have bought the land upon which their Golden Gate Casino sits, essentially ditching their landlords and taking full control. This model of owning both the casino and the dirt it sits on is actually pretty rare in Vegas. In fact, most strip casinos, regardless of operator, are sitting on land owned by a conglomerate called Vici. Downtown, where big properties sit on more than, sorry, John, I'm having trouble reading this, sit on more than one old original Las Vegas parcel, can leave operators like Binion's with as many as 4 landlords, making for complicated financial dealings. So, 2 questions, John. 1, why do you think they bothered to buy some very expensive real estate? And 2, won't that distract from the money they need to revise their suites so that the toilets are a little further away from the bar?
I don't think they're going to do that at the Golden Gate because the suites are actually quite lovely, and I would like to make a better video than the one I shot previously, which remains. If you want a tutorial on how not to make a Las Vegas hotel room review, go Google Dine, Drink, Vegas, Golden Gate Suites. I did terrible work, and there's a reason I'm in charge of the podcast and you're in charge of the videos. But I don't think they'll do that. I do think the idea here is if you have a landlord, you've got somebody you've got to answer to. And I think Derek Stevens and his brother, who's a 25% partner in the business, have proven they want to do it their own damn way. Taking the table games out was controversial, but he believed in it. Having a free open bar is controversial, but he believes in it. And I applaud Derek Stevens for that. I think, too, that, when we see this on the Strip all the time, I think part of the reason the pricing is the way it is, these resort companies make a quick buck selling the dirt to somebody like Vici. But then in the long run, you now have to pay that company rent back on the property you sold them. And I think some of the price gouging may boil down to that. Whereas if you own your hotel and the dirt it sits on and everything about your business, you have control. One of the other things I would point out is that did we add the story? I don't think we did. We did not add the story on here because I meant to add this today and I forgot. But Bill, have you seen the rumblings about the Tropicana site where the A's plan to build a stadium?
I saw the rumblings, yes.
So there's a company that owns the dirt under what was the Tropicana. Bally's owns the rights to run a casino there, and the A's are building a stadium there. Well, now the company that owns the dirt underneath told Bally's, we're not going to give you one dime for the Bally's hotel project. But the hotel project is less likely to go, the stadium project is less like, the rum is kicked in. The stadium project is less likely to go through without the hotel project. So now in a deal where you're trying to reconfigure how you use the space, the existence of that landlord complicates things. If Bally's owned the dirt, they would have the asset. One, Bally's is broke. And what are they going to get a loan on? They have no collateral. All they have is the rights to run a casino on that dirt. They don't own the dirt, right? So you get handcuffed into what your landlord will and will not allow. And when you want to make renovations, expansions, or remodel, you're handcuffed into what your landlord will or will not financially negotiate with you. So I think Derek Stevens is very wise to do this because it means that only Derek Stevens and his brother get to decide what to do with their properties. And I kind of hope more properties go back to this model.
And I kind of hope that they eventually design some suites with a non-poop and pour model.
You're wrong about that. Those suites are the best value in Vegas. But moving on, Scott also posted rumors that Havana 1957, a restaurant Bill and I have both talked about wanting to try out, but neither of us have made it to. And maybe this is the problem. That and the Flamingo is doing poorly because all the people who think we should check it out haven't. And it is likely to close and to be replaced by something called Cafe Americano, run by the exact same hospitality group that swung and missed on the Cuban concept. Bill, are you sad that you didn't try it before it seems to be going under?
I am deeply sad because you've now got an older hotel, which is, going to have a generic cafe space that I can't imagine has much value. And a properly done Cuban bar can be phenomenal. The drinks, the music, the food. So, John, you and I went on a cruise, I guess, 3.5 years ago now, where there was a Cuban bar on our ship, and we may have spent an inappropriately large amount of time in that bar.
Oh, yes.
That could have been cool. In 2018, when such things were still possible, actually spent a lovely evening in downtown Havana, somehow managed to not get thrown in a communist jail. I would love to have gone back inside the friendly confines of the Flamingo. That's a thing which would have caused me to go to the Flamingo. Something called Cafe Americano is not.
Yeah. Also rum.
Yeah. Also rum. Well, in another news story, the Neon blog at the Las Vegas Review-Journal got everyone's hopes up by sharing the plans of Kelly Warnell to bring back the TI Pirate Show Sirens for at least one night in October of 2026. And she's in talks to restore free shows at Excalibur and the Rio, though Scott at Vital Vegas has openly called BS on those plans. So, John, they've still got the ships in front of TI. Do you think there's any value in doing a show that nobody has to pay for?
Yes. And let me say it this way. TI's numbers are down because Mirage is gone. They don't have a mid-market partner next door to them, and people need a reason to go to TI. Especially because if you're staying on that end of the strip and you're not at TI, you're probably at Palazzo Venetian, the Wynn, or the Encore. In other words, your pinky is and your nose are in the air and you don't want to go into TI. I truly believe that this is a case where Vegas executives have ignored the value in a free show because free shows are advertising. And advertising catches eyeballs, and on the strip, advertising catches feet. And feet walk into your property, and once they're in your property, those feet are connected to wallets. Those wallets want food, booze, and gambling. The more booze they have, the more they gamble. So I do think all three of these venues should consider bringing back free shows. Think about all the people you see at Bellagio going in to see the botanical gardens or the beautiful glass in the lobby who are not Bellagio people, who probably would not go to Bellagio for any other reason other than the free attractions. But when they're in there, they might buy a cocktail, they might grab some lunch, they might throw 20 in a slot machine, and that's money Bellagio wouldn't have got any other way. I think Scott's probably right. But boy, I wish he wasn't, because I think Vegas needs to understand those free shows are not giveaways, they're advertising. And advertising works.
It does. I guess the difference is that with the botanical gardens at the Bellagio, they are inside the hotel, which makes it much easier to do something like buy a $12 scoop of ice cream. If you simply got something out in front of the hotel, you can enjoy the attraction without ever needing to go inside, which makes it way less likely that you spend money.
Okay, and I hear you, but consider what Fremont does. You got that free show, put an outdoor bar there, right? You got a free show, have an employee handing out half off drink coupons inside the casino.
Okay.
There are ways
that actually makes sense.
Yeah, there are ways to leverage that free stuff into people giving you money they wouldn't have given you otherwise. So I think Scott's probably right. These things probably don't happen, or maybe TI's a one night off, but it's not coming back full time. I think Scott's probably right. I just wish he wasn't.
I do too. Well, what's our next news story, John?
All right, well, moving on. KLAS, oh, my bad. KLAS first shared news, everybody in the world covered it since, of MGM Resort CEO Bill Hornbuckle, which is a marvelous name. Oh God, rum. Openly acknowledged what tourists, bloggers, vloggers, podcasters, influencers, and you and I have said for months, that prices for low and mid-tier travelers are too high. Shame on us, the leader of MGM said, referencing Las Vegas high prices, including the infamous bottle of water and the $12 coffee at Starbucks, referring to coffee costing half as much as a room rate at Excalibur. MGM is working at adjusting prices at Excalibur, Luxor, New York, to reflect the reality that these are not luxury properties and they shouldn't be charging luxury prices for food and drinks. Bill, it is nice to know that you, me, and the other 9 million people who've been complaining are finally getting through.
It is nice to know. I will only believe it, though, when I've seen the actual evidence on the ground. And so far, I haven't seen the evidence on the ground. So do you believe that this is simply a blip on the radar, John? Or do you think that the powers that be in Las Vegas are actually long-term changing their pricing strategies?
Well, I think everything in modern American corporations is a quarter-by-quarter proposition. But so long as better pricing leads to better profits, they'll keep it up. The moment that Americans get big fat stimulus checks and can afford to spend more money than they should, prices will go right back up. So I think in the short term, this continues. The long term is yet to be determined.
Fair enough. Well, on social media platform X, which I will always call Twitter because that's how it was meant to be, Las Vegas Locally posted earlier today, and we are recording this on Tuesday, November the 4th. Las Vegas Locally posted earlier today asking folks to contact them if the player involved had recently been contacted by their casino host to ask if it was really you accessing your casino rewards account online. So, John, why do you think that Las Vegas seems to have so many problems with player data being breached? Like, I realize a lot of places have problems, but in Las Vegas, we hear these stories all the time.
Presumably because some of the people who go to Las Vegas have an awful lot of money. And if I were a data thief, which I'm not, I want those people's information.
I guess that makes sense. Folks, when you do stuff in Las Vegas, please be careful with your information because
Indeed.
there are absolutely people who would like to have your money and your information and not even let you place a bet in return.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah.
Las Vegas locally also shared a graphic that shows that year over year visitor rates have dropped from 24 to 25 in a pattern that, what in the world did I type? In a pattern that reflects similar drops in the Great Recession and COVID. Now, this does not mean the visitor numbers are as low as COVID. That's not what this is saying. Simply that the drop from 2007 to 2008, the drop from 2019 to 2020, and the drop from 24 to 25 have similar patterns. Keep in mind that after COVID, Las Vegas went through a tourist boom as Americans had been locked in our houses for 9 months and we got some extra money in our pockets from stimulus and also not going anywhere for 9 months. That Las Vegas had a giant boom that has now subsided. There are absolutely more people in Vegas than there were during COVID. Vegas is not dead. There are simply significantly less people in 2025 than 2024, but less is not none. So let me contextualize that data, but it is a sign that there is a problem. We just aren't going to participate in overhyping that problem.
And I think that's fair, and I appreciate very much the context you provided there. I will say that when we made our last trip to Vegas a couple of months ago, there were decidedly less people in Las Vegas than there had been the year before. And it's not that there weren't people, and it's not that the Mandalay Bay wasn't making money. It's just that there were fewer. And I hope that that means that there's an opportunity for some of these new deals to stick.
Yeah. The best way to explain that trip was it was a busy weekend, but it didn't quite feel like a busy Labor Day weekend, even though it was. So crowds, yes, but Labor Day crowds, not quite.
Indeed. Well, in other news, Jacob Orth from Jacob's Life in Vegas posted a picture of a table blackjack game at the Tuscany, paying 3 to 2 at $5 a hand. And I'll admit, John, I didn't even realize that the Tuscany still had physical table games, but they do. So, John, if you can get decent odds at $5 a hand, can I get you to play some table blackjack with me for a while?
Yeah, I would do that. Also, there's a foodie tour at Tuscany that I'd like to check out. So sure. The only thing I'm not going to do at Tuscany is the sales pitch for the timeshare. Other than that, yeah, we'll give it a go.
So in 2007 and 2008, I had a horrible, terrible, very bad, no good job, which required me to attend a conference in Las Vegas that the hotel we used was the Tuscany. And because of associations with that terrible job, I won't ever stay at the Tuscany again. But I'd go in there if it meant I got to actually play table blackjack with my buddies. Yeah, that would cause me to go into a low end place like that.
Yeah, and I'm down for that. And you know me, I've been itching to get into some of the more off-strip and locals friendly places and future trips. I think there's some channel content we can generate with that. It's just fun stuff to talk about. Also, I like a deal, baller on a budget.
Word.
All right.
Well, John, in our last story, will you tell our listeners a little bit about the college football playoffs?
So if you hate sports talk, you could dive out now. You've made it this far through the episode. We thank you. Remember to like and subscribe. For everybody else, we're going to make this quick, but college football update now that we're over midway through the season. Here are the top 10 rankings so that you can make some decisions about your sports betting in Las Vegas or wherever you like to put money on sports ball. Number 10, the University of Notre Dame. Number 9, Oregon. Number 8, those horrible tortilla throwers at Texas Tech. Number 7, BYU. I actually heard a talk by a scholar from BYU a couple days ago. Good school. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, Georgia. Number 4, Alabama. Bill, go ahead and share number 3.
Number 3 is God's chosen institution, Texas A&M.
Whoop. I can't believe I whooped.
And
that felt dirty.
I am proud of you, John.
Oh, my God. Number 2 is Indiana. And number 1, and Bill, you typed this one. All the typos on the run sheet are my fault, but this is you. Number 1 is, of course, you left out the pronoun, the Ohio State University. And with that, we bring this. Go ahead, Bill. You have things to say.
I am super proud of you for formal English grammar correcting me. And I do want to ask one real quick sports betting question here, John. What do you see changing most on this list? Like as we get to the end of the season, if you were to place bets about, teams that are going to make it and aren't, what do you see changing the most?
I have a very hard time believing in Ole Miss.
Lane Kiffin does do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
I will say one thing which is obviously going to change is if Indiana and Ohio State win out, they'll play one another in the Big Ten championship game. So they won't finish the season 1-2.
No.
I will say I take great joy. Do you know what the first team is out of the playoff right now?
I'm going to guess it's that hated university in the city of Austin.
Yes, the publicly funded institution in the city of Austin is the first team out of the playoff, and that makes my heart happy. I will actually say I don't think they make the playoff anyway because they've got to go to Georgia, then they've got us at home. I don't think they make it anyway, but it would make my heart happy if they stayed out of the playoff. If I was a betting person, I would, actually, I think everybody on this list probably does make the playoff.
I think so.
If anybody doesn't, it's going to be either Texas Tech or BYU.
Right.
But I actually think that this is a fairly solid list.
I do too. I think Notre Dame squeaks in whether or not they deserve it. They always get a little unfair treatment. It pains me to say it. I think we're looking at coming down the stretch. I think Ohio State handles Indiana, and I think we're looking at Ohio State and your Aggies 1 and 2. But Bill, I have to wonder with where you live now. I know that people still say roll tide there. Do they say it sadly now? Do they greet each other with roll tide? I mean, they're not going to quit saying it.
No, the Alabama fans are quite proud. I will say it has become a little bit harder to find Auburn fans recently.
Would imagine. Yeah, they've had a bad year. Yeah.
Listeners, if you come to my town, people are going to ask you if you found a church yet. Just give them an answer. It's going to make the conversation shorter. I attend a parish that is mixed, right? And by a mixed parish, what I mean is that half the people there are Alabama fans and half the people there are Auburn fans. And the Alabama fans right now are a lot happier than the Auburn fans. The only thing which is making the Auburn people happy is the fact that they just fired Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. Well, and also the fact that the Alabama people aren't in this top 10 list.
Yeah. That is. Yeah.
All right. On that note, Bill,
right.
I think we need to bring this bird in for a landing, preferably without the gaseousness of my last flight. Why don't you tell the listeners where they could find more Dine, Drink Vegas and Dine, Drink Travel content?
Folks, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we give you short and focused videos which give you the information that you need to plan your next trip to Las Vegas. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we spend a lot of time talking about air travel, including executive lounges at the Las Vegas airport and increasingly places that I like to drink in Ireland. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dine Drink Travel, except on Blue Sky, where I'm Dine Drink Bill, but we are mostly on X, where I am Dine Drink Travel, and I interact with John. John, where can they find you on X?
You can find me on X at Dine Drink John, where I'm more than happy to talk to you about adult beverages, about fine coffee, about food, about Las Vegas, about travel. And
Ask
increasingly,
him about the Cowboys.
why Jerry Jones is making me reconsider my stance on euthanasia at the end of life. With that said, we are so glad you took the time to listen to us. If you've got a friend who's planning a trip to Las Vegas and our content might help them plan their trip, please pass our podcast along to them. If you've got an enemy who hates listening to old, fat, white guys talk and talk and talk, share this podcast with them too. Either way, you'll be helping us grow an audience, and that'll keep us bringing more of this wonderful content to you week after week. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, happy travels.